Hello again. I thought it might be interesting to think a little about how complicated our lives have become due to immigration and the way in which even the simplest transaction in ordinary life has now become immensely complicated as a result of large numbers of foreigners arriving in our country. Around 50 years ago, I opened a bank account. I needed no identification. There was no question of proving that I was who I said I was. I simply provided my name and address, and that was that. In the 1970s and 1980s, and even later, anybody could open a savings account with a building society or start a bank account merely by providing one's name. It was assumed as a matter of course that you were who you said you were. The same thing applied if one wished to rent a flat. If I said that my name was Simon Webb, why on earth would anybody have any reason to doubt that? Of course, there were swindlers and confidence tricksters in those days, but it was known that these were few and far between. Most people renting flats and opening bank accounts were likely to be ordinary, honest people, and so everybody acted accordingly. I wonder if anybody has recently tried to open a bank account or rent a flat. The process is like something from Kafka, and you really need to show your passport. This is because anybody renting a flat today in Britain has a legal obligation to prove to the landlord that he or she has the right to live in this country. Stop just for a moment and consider that. To rent a property in my own country, I must show my passport and prove that I'm entitled to live in the country in which I was born. Even voting now requires a passport. These difficulties are all a direct consequence of foreigners becoming more common in this country. We were a high trust society, you see. This meant that we trusted both strangers and also institutions with which we did business. We recognised the rule of law and had a judicial system we also trusted. A key foundation of high trust societies like that is a homogeneous society racially and culturally. This is because everybody shares similar values. We knew that, with rare exceptions, a stranger would have the same set of values as us, albeit roughly as trustworthy and reliable as us. Ideas like fair dealing and honesty is the best policy were simply what we took for granted when we met others. By way of contrast, low trust societies tend to rely more upon kinship connections, and these are often stronger than any loyalty either to an abstract idea of ethics, such as fair dealing, or to society or a country as a whole. There's an old Arab proverb which sums up perfectly the low trust society. Me against my brother and me against our cousins, us and our cousins against the village, our village against the next town, our district against the rest of the country. This means that when people from Bangladesh or Pakistan come here, they do not believe in fair dealing and honesty as something universal to be applied in all their dealings with everybody. Their first loyalty will be to their families, then to people from their own districts back home, and then in a wider sense, Siletis owe each other a loyalty which they might not feel towards those who speak Punjabi, say. This means that cheating a bank or a company run by those of different background or ethnicity is not seen as a wrong act in a way that we in this country view it. Ethics are a relative matter and depend upon whom one is doing business with. No wonder that banks were badly hit by fraud when they tried to apply the same principles of trust towards such people as they were accustomed to do with other British people. It is not that these people are more dishonest than us, but rather that they have a different kind of honesty, one which is relative. I regret the loss of our high trust society, but one can either have an ethnically homogeneous society, which is high trust, or a multicultural one, which is low trust, which is the model we seem now to have plumped for.